All right, so I'm going to start, and if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt. I do stop periodically through this just to see if there's any questions on some of the sections that I cover. So I am on the main web site here, and these are all the features that we have, but I just wanted to scroll down to tell you a little bit about us. I've been working as a secondary school athletic trainer for a lot of years, since 1993, and I've been involved in the profession in many ways, once serving as president of the New Jersey Athletic Trainers State Association, and I've also served on the NATA Secondary School Committee, and I teach adjunct and serve as a professor. And also, my brother Brandon has been doing web design for many, many years. He's done athletic training related things for the EATA and NATA District 2 and our state association, but has managed numerous other websites, everything from real estate to car dealerships. So we teamed up and developed ATGenius, and we've been up and running since about 2016. So we're relatively new on the scene. Megan, if you're able to hear us or can give us any feedback on the chat, let me know. I see your name up there, but I'm not sure if you can hear or see anything. All right, so I'm going to go back to our main page here where you're logged in, and I'm logged into our test account. And you do see some tips that come up about once a week on how to better use the system, and that's what this quick tip is here. Now, do I have your name correct, Vicky? Do you go by Vicky? Yes? Okay. Vicky, what are you using right now? Are you using Soap Notes, just written templates? Is that what you were saying?
We had used Sportswear and then we switched to Sims, but then they've kind of disbanded and don't have support anymore. So we're looking to switch to a new EMR.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you an Office fan? Do you watch The Office?
Yes.
All right, good, because we have some Office characters in our test account. All right, so when you first log in, this is what you'll see. And there are some reminders. So if you start a soap note and don't sign it after a week or so, then it will give you a reminder that you have some unsigned soap notes. And if you lend out equipment, our system tracks lending out crutches and coolers and things like that. If you have some items that aren't returned after a period of time, it will remind you of that. So scrolling down, we look at recent history. It's always going to show the last 10 records that you were involved with. And on the right, there's going to be little icons. In this case, it's saying that these records need attention. That means no one's been in this unresolved case for about a week, and the system is alerting you to give that record some attention. And sometimes it will say discharged if the athlete's been completely cleared and returned to sport and no longer receiving any care from you. Or if you do a new injury, it will say not discharged, and that means that there's still an active case. So our test account gets kind of messy, and sometimes we don't update records as much, so that's why we see a lot of attentions here. I'm going to go into Oscar Martinez and show you how we enter a new injury. So you can see the recent history of prior injuries that are in Oscar's record here. If you see these X's and the unlocked, that means this record can actually still be deleted. But once it's signed and locked, you can't delete the record or edit it. You can only add to it. So I'm going to click on Add Injury. This is to add a new injury. And we're going to say, in this case, it's a foot and ankle. You have three choices here: the guided soap, the open soap, and the short note. So the guided soap has lots of check boxes and really walks you through a thorough evaluation. The open soap is more designed for narrative evaluation. That's what I tend to use at the high school more because I think it's faster. And the short note is just for a quick minor injury, let's say it's a lower leg contusion and it's not really worth getting into writing up a full SOAP about, but you want to document it in some way, you can use the short note. So let's take a look first at the guided SOAP. When you click on that, and this is going to be the same no matter what device you're on, if you're on a phone, an iPad, computer, it's always going to be it always will look the same because it's web-based. These are the initial details that you need to enter. Now, none of this is required except the date of injury. So if you're out on the field and you want to quickly get into it, you can skip these fields and just put the date. Anything that has a red around it, red outline, that means it's required. But if you want to run reports later on how many football injuries you had or soccer injuries or baseball injuries you had and what fields they happened on and things like that, then you want to fill in this information so that you have that available for running reports. So I'm just going to enter the date of injury and click next. And this is where we get into the SOAP note. So we have these 4 tabs, subjective, objective, assessment, and plan here. And right now we're in the subjective tab. So we'll just say it's his right ankle, his pain is a 6 out of 10. And let's just say he inverted his ankle during practice for a real quick history. When we click on objective, we can put where he's tender to palpation. So whatever you use, some people use point tender or other people put TTP. So let's just say point tender anterior talofibular ligament for palpation. And maybe you notice some mild limping. And as we scroll through here, this is where the guided SOAP provides a lot of details. We have some of our members ask for this level of detail that we provide. So let's just say eversion is painful. Maybe inversion has a limited range of motion. Plantar flexion within normal limits. You can go through this and you can actually specify how many degrees of range of motion that they have. So let's just say they had limited dorsiflexion range of motion and it was 5 degrees. You can type that in there like so. As you scroll down, you can check off your different strength testing that you do, or check off within normal limits. You have your neurological, dermatomes, myotomes, distal capillary refill, everything you can think of, and then all the special tests. So let's just say their anterior drawer test was positive, Kliger's negative, negative percussion, negative Thompson's, etc. So you can go through these and check these off. There's also comment boxes at the bottom. You can click this arrow here to quickly go back to the top. Click on assessment. Let's just say we're going to call this a grade 1 ATFL sprain. And this here is for choosing lay-friendly terms for reports that you run. So let's say you run a coach's report. It's not going to pick up the medical jargon that you type in assessment. It's going to pick up what you put in here. So we're going to just pick ligament sprain here, and that's what's going to show on a coach's report or other reports that you run that, again, are lay-friendly. And this drop down here is customizable. So if there's something we forgot to put in that you run across, you can edit that in accounts. Then we'll click on plan. And you can check off here what you plan to do. Let's say you plan to do some cryotherapy, some rehab exercises, maybe some ultrasound. Participation status, maybe Oscar's limited at this time, and you can write some comments down here at the bottom. These comments that you write under participation status will automatically appear when you run a coach's report. That was one request that we had from a member. Any communication, so if you notified the coach, if you're working in a high school, maybe you notified the parent and you want to document that. Some states require estimated return to sport, estimated treatment frequency, treatment duration in their rules and regulations. So we do have this available for states that require this. And also some states require to put a measurable goal or two in the documentation. So this is picking up the 6 from the pain scale. An easy measurable goal is 6 to 3 by maybe the end of the week for a goal that you can put back in there. Okay? But you can skip any parts that you don't want to use. From here, we're going to click, we can save this, all right? And this is really saving for later. This record is not permanent. I can still edit this record. I can still delete this record. However, once I sign and lock it, I click here, that is what makes it permanent. So if you want to sit on this injury for a day or so and then make your final decision and then sign and lock it the next day, you can do that here. I do that all the time. And by the way, if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt me or put it in the chat. So if you click sign and lock, you'll type in your password and that will be signed and locked and made permanent. So if I go back to main menu, back to Oscar Martinez, we can see this record I just created. He's not discharged. It's unlocked. I can still delete it and edit it if I want. This other one here that's locked, obviously I can't delete or change at this time. I'm going to show you the guided soap very quickly. I want to go down, let's go down to knee. I'm sorry, the open soap. So same introductory screen with the open soap. I'm just going to click the injury date here. And when we get into this, and again, this is what I tend to use more often than not. The subjective area is still the same, but when you go to objective, it's just an area to type, and some people prefer this. So let's say it was a valgus stress injury, point tender MCL, active knee range of motion, flexion to 90 degrees, etc. Negative Lockman. So instead of going through all the check boxes, you could type in your narrative description here. Assessment is the same as the guided soap, and the plan is a little briefer. All right, so everything's quicker and shorter with the open soap, but you can see here you still have a lot of the same things, document their status and any communication that you did. I'm just going to save that. All right, so you see the sign and lock. Back to main menu. Very, very quickly, the short note again is for something very minor. Elbow contusion, lower leg contusion. Click lower leg, click short note, same first screen. And then I click next. And this is just a one-pager. Very quick documentation method here for those minor injuries. All right, so a one-pager. By the way, since we're in here, we have a shin questionnaire. If you pick lower leg, you can send this questionnaire to your patient via text in advance. It's a point-based system that I have used for years to determine the risk of stress fracture. So it's 30 points, and I have found that once you start getting into the low to mid-20s, the risk of stress fracture is significantly greater. So they can fill this out. You fill out part of it, but you can fill this out, and it gives you a point system, and you have a little bit of history while they're waiting to see you. They can fill this out and buys you some time, and you get some valuable information for their lower leg injury. All right, back to main menu. I'm going to go to Oscar Martinez again and pick one of his signed and locked records, this shoulder. If I click the More tab, you'll notice once you sign and lock a record, the More tab appears. This was not here when you're doing the soap. But this More tab appears and allows you to add all of these things on top of the record. So if you get a doctor's note that you want to scan into your computer and add that to the patient's file, you can click Add View Media, and you can add that note in here. I don't know what we have. We don't have an actual note. We have our demo guidelines in there, but you can add that in there. And at my high school, we are completely paperless. We receive notes, we scan them in, add them into the system, and then we shred them. We have special education students that like to come down and do jobs for us, make heel lace pads and restock tape and do some of the laundry for us, and other many tasks actually. And one of the things they love to do is to shred. So they take the shredder, the items to shred. If an athlete forgets to sign in, which I'll show you later, you can add their treatment. Once you discharge an athlete from care, you add a discharge note. And we have reasons for discharge. Some states require athletic trainers to indicate the reason for discharge. That's why that's in there. Back to the More tab. I'm going to quickly go through all these, but you can you can really spend some time exploring this. But the other thing we have is a follow-up. So if you have a parent conversation, a conversation with a PT, a conversation with a doctor that you want to document, you can add that in the follow-up and indicate here who you followed up with and how you communicated with them and who you spoke with here. That was one of our suggestions by one of our subscribers. We have multiple patient questionnaires. In our profession, it's really been urged to us to do patient-reported outcome measures. And one of the barriers to doing them, if you look at some of the research that's out there, this study here by Lamb showing the use of patient-reported outcome measures amongst athletic trainers is very low. Only about 21% of us are using PROMs in our daily practice. And some of the barriers include difficulty in using an instrument or time or scoring. There's many, many barriers. And these outcome measures are important for not only demonstrating your treatment efficiency and the value of your service, but also for tracking patient progress. So we've tried to solve all these barriers. And when you click on patient questionnaire, you can text this to them so they can fill this out. But I'm going to click complete questionnaire. And these are some of the questions. They're going to be asked questions of function and of activities of daily living. And they're going to ask difficulty with doing sports activities. They're going to indicate their self-described readiness for return to play, their pain level, their changes since last visit, their progress, what they think they can handle at this time. So this really gives us some detailed information that they can fill out at their own convenience. It's self-scored from 0 to 100%, and you can repeat these to show someone's progress. And I always emphasize that it's not only important to do these, but actually use them to change or alter your treatment. Review this with the athlete to see what's happening with them and how we can adjust treatment. For example, one time I didn't realize that one of our athletes 3 weeks out was still having difficulty with ankle stiffness until they did one of these, and then we addressed it with their rehab. Progress notes, you can add a progress note to their plan. So here is one example here. So pain levels 2 out of 10 today, ran on treadmill, pain-free, it's date and time stamped. Any of our notes you can email. So the icon down here in the lower right, you can send this to your coaches or whomever. It's going to have the information, and it's going to have your signature and your credentials and your license number at the bottom of the email. And this is secure email in our system. All right, if you don't mind chiming in or chatting or telling me, are you guys doing rehab at school? Or your kids going to physical therapy? Are you handling most of the rehab yourself?
We do some of both. If it's smaller things and I have time and staff here to do it, we do it on site. If it's a ACL tear in the middle of the busy season, then they get sent off site.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Okay. All right. Well, we have this thing called the rehab card, but before I get to that, during the SOAP note, you can document that you referred the athlete to a physician, and you can indicate who you refer to. You can customize the drop-down of common docs that you're sending people to, but if you sign and lock the SOAP note, then change your mind and send them to a physician, you can click physician referral, and here is where you can add who you're referring to. And again, this drop-down is customizable and the outcome and everything. But back to rehab. So our rehab card, a lot of people like. It's something that you can create for them to follow along on their own by logging in on their phone. So we just have one exercise here. So if I click Edit Rehab, I can add a bunch of exercises here. And let's just say Achilles stretch is another exercise. And let's just say 3 times 30-second hold. You can upload videos and images that will appear for the athlete under a column called How To. So if you put in the sleeper stretch, for example, you can grab a video or a picture of the sleeper stretch on YouTube or anywhere and pull that in, and that will show for them. But anyway, I'm just going to click add exercise. And then when they log in, you can give them an account and they can log in and follow along and indicate their sets and reps, and it'll all be date and time stamped. So this way, the athlete doesn't have to ask you every 2 seconds, what do I do next? And it also is helpful for home rehab or times where in between when they can't see you or a snow day or whatever happens. So we use this more for our moderate to lengthy rehab cases in the high school. For the ankle sprain that's going to get better in a week or two, we may not use it, but this is just a nice feature to have that you can give them some direction with their rehab. And then there's some other things you can do as far as sending reports. And the watch pile idea is, let's say you look at a case of lower leg shin pain and you're not quite sure if a stress fracture is brewing, and you're going to let them participate limitedly, and you don't want to forget about them. You want to remind yourself to check on this athlete a week later. You can add them to your watch pile, and then a week or so later that will pop up. Hey, remember you wanted to check on so-and-so shin. And I used to just do that with paper. You know, I would just put assessments, evaluations in a pile that I wanted to flip through every once in a while to remind myself to go check on somebody so they didn't disappear on me and end up worsening their injury. So anyway, that's the More tab. So I'm going to stop there and see if you guys have any questions before we move on to concussions.
Could you just show the difference in the like add treatment versus the rehab card? Like, does all the rehab stuff go in the add treatment section too?
The add treatment is more for if they forgot to sign in, and we have a system for them to sign in electronically. Add treatment is in case they forgot to sign in and you're doing it for them. So if I click More tab, add treatment, I'll just pick today's date and I'll just say the time is fine. And then there's sport, let's say baseball next. Let's say they were in for their foot and ankle. This is what they see when they sign in. So you're just doing it for them from your end. So you would scroll through and check off their treatment that they received that day. And then you could also put some comments at the bottom too, if you want to indicate the response to treatment.
So does the rehab card keep a log of how they've progressed through things, or just what's current for that day?
The rehab card is going to show a log of every time they came in and filled out their rehab card. So it's going to have the time and date stamped and maybe your list of 10 exercises. And it's going to have checks where they completed each exercise. And then you could also put goals on there too for them to see. And then when you log in, you can see all their completed rehab cards. So if you think about the way I got this idea is that if somebody's new to joining a gym and they work with, let's say, a personal trainer, and they come up with a dozen exercises and they have a card for them to fill out with their sets and reps for each exercise, and they're kind of walking around the gym with that card as a new person. That's kind of the idea here. So we used to do this with our ACLs and our longer term rehab. So we just basically made it electronic.
And then that's where you would go to look at like how many times they've been in to do everything and sort of progress through.
Yeah, you can look at their individual treatment history to see every time they've come in, but they may not do a rehab card for every time they come in. That you might have an athlete that's just coming in for treatment every day that you didn't provide a rehab card for, and then you can look and view their history of every time they came in. All right, so let's look at concussions. So what are you guys using for concussions? Are you using the SCAT? Are you doing your own thing?
We use SCAT mainly, SCAT 5.
And then as far as documenting their return to play, are you doing anything that way in terms of their steps?
Yeah, we have a common 5-step procedure that we run them through, and we document it each day, what they do and any symptoms that come up, stuff like that.
Okay. All right, so this will be similar for you. I'm going to All right, so Miranda's my daughter. She watches the Kardashians, so she's Miranda Kardashian here. I know she has some concussion history, so I'm going to add new injury, concussion eval. So you have three choices here. You can do our concussion evaluation in the system, which is very SCAT-like. The SCAT is proprietary. You can't take the SCAT exactly as is and put it in a product and sell it. So our evaluation is very SCAT-like. It's actually more than the SCAT. You can complete a paper SCAT and then upload that into the system. Or let's say someone gets concussed on a Friday night at an away game, and maybe it's Tuesday before they see you, and they've seen the doctor in the meantime, and they're concussed, and they bring you a note that they're concussed. Please begin return to play protocol. You may not do a SCAT at that point because it's so far out. I usually don't. So you could just upload that doctor's note to get started. But you have to pick one of these three things to move forward from this screen. So I'm going to click our concussion eval. So same opening screen here. Again, many of our ideas come from our subscribers, not ours, but one person suggested this where you can click to indicate their area of impact and you can spin it to the other side. And a SOAP type format here with the tab. So this is our history section here. We click on signs and symptoms. We can check off some of these things here. Symptoms, as you're probably used to, scoring these 1 through 6. So I'm just going to click through a few of these just so you can see them. All right, so that's your signs and symptoms tab here. Under exam is more than you'll need, more than you'll probably use, but we try to accommodate everyone's preferences. So if you want to ask the questions the day of the week and who you're playing today, you can go through that at the top. You have your 5-word recall here that you can check off your 3 trials. All the coordination and balance tests, the finger to nose, the tandem balance, you can put how many errors they had here. There's a little timer if you need it to time their test. All the concentration questions, a month backwards, you can put how many errors they had. The numbers backwards, I find most non-concussed people can't get through the third one, the third level, but you could go through that if you use that. Some of our subscribers like to do the cranial nerve assessment. Of course, we have the ocular and vestibular evaluation here that you can indicate a small area for neck examination, and then the delayed words that we're supposed to ask 10 minutes or so later is here. All right, so that is the exam section. You can skip anything you want, nothing's required, just whatever your preference is. Assessment, we're going to call this person concussed. Of course, we pick concussion from our drop down. And then the plan, they're usually only going to do one of two things. They're going to follow the return to play protocol, or they're doing something different, or they're not cleared to start it yet. They're obviously out. They're concussed. Anybody you've communicated with, you notify the coach, notify the parent by phone, etc. So that's in the plan section here. All right, same idea, save for later, and then you can sign and lock it. So I'm going to go back to Miranda, try to find an old concussion. She's got a ton in here. Let me see here. Maybe this one has something. Okay, so same idea. Well, once you sign and lock a concussion, the More tab appears, and you have all these things on the left. So it's mostly similar to SOAP notes, except we can add a cranial nerves eval. We can do follow-up symptom checklist. So if I click symptom checklist, let's say it's the next day after your initial injury eval, you can send this checklist to your patient to complete, which is real nice. So if they're home, still not back to school yet, and you want to kind of track how they're doing, this text idea is really, really awesome. And again, another suggestion by one of our subscribers. But if you check on it to send it, this is what it'll look like for the athlete on their phone. It comes up beautiful, looks just like this on their phone. And they can go through here and do that. And then click save at the bottom. And then you'll view it here. So you can see these are two of the same dates, but you'll see all of their checklists and their initial evaluation. They'll have a red check if they have the symptom, a green check if they don't, and then their score 1 through 6 in severity. And again, like anything else, you can email this to whomever. Sometimes I email to the coach just to let them know that they're still symptomatic, or to the school nurse, or to their doctor. So that is the symptom checklist. And the other thing that I wanted to show you here is the return to play protocol. So this one already has some completed. So if you are documenting each step, let's say Miranda's up to her non-contact practice step. I'm going to click add return to play protocol. Let's just put today's date. Let's just say step 4. Right? She's doing her non-contact practice. By the way, this drop down here is customizable. You can change any of this to what you're doing. All right, so I'm going to click non-contact practice, click none, and you can save this for later, because let's say it's 2:30 in the afternoon and you're sending them off to practice, and you're going to tell them, come see me after practice to confirm that you were symptom-free. You might just save it for later. Then they come back, they say they're asymptomatic, and then you click none, or type none in here, and then sign and lock it. So all of our concussion steps have to be individually signed and locked. And the reason we have that, because there's so much liability nowadays with athletic trainers and concussions, we want you to sign each individual step. Just like if you were keeping a paper copy and writing it down every day, what they did, you would just initial or sign each day. That's the same idea here. Okay, any questions on concussion before I move on to treatment sign-in? All right, what are you guys using for treatment sign-in? What are you guys doing? Like, if you don't mind saying, I don't know if the other participants have audio.
We just use a paper sign-in sheet for the most part, and then I was sort of doubling up those efforts and adding them in REMR on my own.
Okay. Well, hopefully this will make things real easy for you. I'm going to just go back to our main menu. This is our main website. I'm not logged in. I click treatment sign-in. So if they sign in using their phone, this is where it'll take them to. What we have done pre-COVID is we had an iPad mounted on the wall that was always set to this page, so they would sign in this way. And we also had an iPad that we put in an OtterBox that we would pass around, that they would sign in that way. And then we also have a QR code, which I'll show you, hanging up on our wall. And that's mostly how we do it now. They hold their phone up to the QR code, and it'll take them right to this page, and they can just sign in on their phone. And I think now we're after, all the COVID things have settled down, we'll probably go back to some of our other methods as well. But our students are very used to doing it through their phone. It's automatic, and it works extremely well. So you'll set a school code. The one in this test account is Bulldog, so I would use your mascot name or something that's easy for your students to remember. And I'm just going to sign in as my son. I have him in here as Tyler Smith. He's much too old to be a high school or college student now, but I remember his birthday. So to sign in as a student athlete, you need your school code, your last name, your date of birth. And if you're a twin or triplet, it will pop up after you click sign in, which one are you, and then you'll move forward by selecting your name. So I'm signing in as Tyler Smith. I'm going to choose my sport. I'm going to choose why I'm in. And then this is similar to what I already showed you, just the athlete's view. You can add items to your quick list, which will appear at the top. So things that you're commonly doing. to save the athletes from scrolling. You can put some common things at the top. You can modify any of these items. You can't change the red titles, but you can change anything within each section. So under injury evaluation, functional test, if you wanted to change that to return to play test, you could go in there and change that if you want. So we have the red sections here that you can see. You know, if you're not doing any intermittent compression, or we don't have something like you're doing cupping and you want to add cupping in there, you can modify all these things. We use the phrase therapeutic exercises at my high school. The students just learn to use that. We try to stay consistent with the right language, but if you want to change that to rehab exercises, you can. So this is how they sign in. So I'm just going to check off. He was in for maybe some taping, some ice, maybe some balance activities, therapeutic exercise, and maybe some manual therapy. So I'm going to click sign in here, and Tyler's done. So now I'm going back to, I'm logged in as the athletic trainer. I'm on the main screen. I'm going to click treatment sign in. I can see where Tyler just signed in right now and what he checked off. And I can actually edit this if I want. I can go in here and say, you know what? Tyler was also in for some wound care that he forgot to check off, and then hit save, and that updates it. So these remain here as a main sign-in sheet until you approve them, which you should do every day or so. Look through these and make sure they're correct, and then click approve treatments, and you can select all for speed, and that will remove all of these from this general treatment sign-in and put them all in their individual accounts. So imagine a paper sign-in sheet where everyone's signing in at your front door, and once you approve them, you put them all into their individual files. That's what happens when you approve these selected ones here. All right, and everything's date and time stamped. So if I go back to main menu and I go to Tyler Smith, I click here. Now I'm in his account. I click on his individual treatment history. I can see every time that Tyler's been in and what he has been in for. And he has a total of 57 visits and 191 treatments. So if Tyler comes in and receives the Whirlpool tape wound care, that's 3 treatments for 1 visit. So that's why these numbers are different. And you can run reports to show your treatment statistics and the value of your treatment. So we have built-in costs per treatment. So if you want to show that you provided $30,000 worth of treatment over several months, you can do that. And all of that is editable and customizable in our account section. And you can also demonstrate how many treatments you've done. We were trying to upgrade our part-time second athletic trainer position to a full-time, and we used a lot of these injury statistics to show the need for that. All right, back to main menu. Any questions on treatment sign-in before I move on? If Tyler, are you able to hear and or see? If you could just let me know through the chat, or I have you still on the phone, I believe, if you're able to let me know.
One quick question. What happens if they try and sign in for a treatment, but they haven't been entered as an athlete in the system yet?
Right, so they can't. They have to be in the system first.
Okay.
So you have
It's not tied to their email or anything, so as long as their name and date of birth was in there to start.
Yeah, you just need the very basics to have them. So if I go to add, let's say you're the athlete, you as the athletic trainer want to add a new patient on the fly, you would click them here. Again, only the red fields are required. So you just need to enter their first and last name. I would put their phone number in there in case you want to send messages to them. You can do that. Their grade level, their date of birth, and then you're done. If they're a twin, you want to indicate that. A visiting athlete, you want to indicate that. That way they don't show up on your reports that you're running for your own coaches. It'll exclude them from that. But sometimes, most of what we do at the high school is we'll hand them instructions to create their own account on their phone while they're waiting to be evaluated. So it buys us more time if we're busy doing something else. Here, as long as it's not an urgent injury, here's the instructions, which I can send to you if you want. Here are the instructions. Create your account right now while you're waiting to get your ankle looked at, and when we do it on the fly. But your other options are to import your athletes ahead of time before the season, or we can import them for you, or you can give, like I said, athletes instructions to create their own account.
Okay.
The reason why I suggest strongly to approve your treatments every day or so is, remember now with this, athletes can lie and say they were with you when they weren't. They can sign in and say they were with you when they were with their girlfriend in the hallway, or wherever. So it's important to keep tabs on that. All right, so back to main menu. We have a lot of reports. Our report section has grown considerably, but I just want to show you a couple of them. Coach's report. Hold on a second. That's coach's document. Sorry. Coach's report. I'm just going to leave it on all sports. You can select sports individually. I'm going to pick a date range. I don't know if we'll pick up any data. We'll see what happens. So a date range since the 4th. Okay, good. So we have 4 patients here, and this is going to show how you last left it in their SOAP note. So if you needed, if Miranda was out and now she's limited, you can update that on the fly. If you forget who the heck Oscar Martinez is, like sometimes I do, I work in a large high school with 2,000 students, sometimes I forget who they are. I can look back and go to their profile. That's a link there. And any status notes that you write in the SOAP under their participation status will automatically appear here. You can indicate their treatment compliance, add any comments. And let's say Oscar Martinez, we haven't seen him for 2 weeks. We all have athletes like that, right? Haven't seen in 2 weeks, so poor compliance. And we want to highlight that so it stands out to the coach when they get it. So you got your highlight colors here. I'm just picking yellow. Always click update at the bottom to make sure it reflects. That way when this arrives in the coach's email, or we can text this also to a coach, that person will stand out if you want them to stand out. And if an athlete doesn't appear, maybe there's an athlete that wasn't in the date range, you can add them on the fly here. But we're going to send this report to the coach. You can create an address book here for all your coaches so that they are automatically here for you. And it's going to really look nice when it goes out. Our coaches comment all the time on how great this looks when it comes to them. It's going to have a nice chart here with their email and your signature and your credentials and license number. The only thing I would warn you about is sometimes initially these emails from our system arrive in a spam or junk folder for your staff members. So you need to talk to your IT department not to treat ATGenius emails as junk. There are many other reports here. The injury statistics report is showing how many ankle injuries, foot injuries, knee injuries. It's going to have pie charts. If you want to show how many injuries occurred in girls soccer, boys soccer, etc., that's your injury statistics report. The treatment statistics report is showing how many treatments you saw. One year we demonstrated we did 4,000 treatments in our school. When we're trying to push for that full-time second person to show our volume. So it's good to show stakeholders and administrators and other people the kind of volume that you're doing. Okay? So that's our report section there. I mentioned earlier we allow you to track equipment. So if you're loaning out crutches or boots or knee immobilizers or coolers or AEDs, things that you want to keep track of to get back, you can do that here. And this list is customizable as well. So if we want to, sorry, I have so many screens open, I have to move things around. Add this equipment list, like I said, is customizable in account, who you loaned it to, the date out, and then You can sort here by what has not been returned to track that. Back to main menu, I'm back into Oscar Martinez. If I want to send Oscar a text message, I can. It does not reveal my cell phone number. Oscar cannot reply to it. It's a one-way text message. So I click add message here. You can have them receive a message upon treatment sign-in if you want. For example, reminder, ride the bike for 5 minutes before you do your hamstring stretches, that sort of thing. Or you can send them a text message at any time, and you can send now or pick the time it goes to. Let's say you see this ankle injury at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you want to say, reminder, say, and we do this, reminder, ice your ankle for 20 minutes, and see me tomorrow, let's say at 3 p.m. And let's say I want to schedule this to go at 8 o'clock or 8 p.m. tonight. So at 8 o'clock tonight, this athlete receives a reminder to ice their ankle 20 minutes and see the athletic trainer that next day at 3 o'clock. All right, back to main menu. I'm going to spend a few minutes on accounts. This is where you customize the system to your needs. So I click on account. I enter in the information here, your license number, your MPI number, the credentials. This is where you can change your password. If you're taking care of middle school athletes, you want to check that because that way the grades 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th will populate when you select their grade level. But if you're doing college setting or just strictly high school setting, you can leave those unchecked. When you click on account options, these are all the areas that you can customize the system. So if you click on athlete student import, if you have a CSV file that you want to import your athlete's demographics, this is where you would do that yourself. If you click view field list, these are all the things that we can import as far as demographics go. Here's where you set your school code for what athletes will use when they sign in for treatment. If you want to give coaches and staff access, some of our colleges are allowing coaches access to certain information. And I'll show you what they can see. They cannot see your SOAP notes, but they can see emergency contact information and other things that you have the athlete put in here if you want to allow that. Sometimes we have our colleges asked for that because let's say they're injured at an away game on the road and the athlete's going to the hospital with the coach and they want to be able to pull up emergency information or a copy of their insurance card. That can all be in there. Here's where you customize your list of concussion return to play activities that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to skip through some of these just for the sake of time that you can explore, but you want to spend some time putting in the names of all your fields, you know, whether that's the lower turf field or so-and-so stadium so that they appear in your drop-down when labeling the initial injury information. We have a whole preseason document section where you can upload things for parents and or athletes to sign, electronically sign after they've read, or if you wanted to upload your physicals to be placed here where the athlete downloads that, gets their physical filled out, and then re-uploads it into the system. That's where you would handle all this here. Your customizable list of your referral providers. So when you're referring an athlete, you want to indicate which doctor going to. You can put that in there. You can also create a rehab card template for common injuries. So let's say you know, of course we see lots of ankle injuries. If you wanted to create a rehab card template for an ankle sprain that has a list of your 10 basic exercises, that's available. That way, when you create a rehab card, you can just pull that. You don't have to make a new rehab card for every ankle sprain that you see. You have a template ready to go that can just be tweaked. So you would create that here. Reminder days. I don't know why all these zeros are here, but it's defaulted at 7. So if you start a SOAP note and don't sign it, after 7 days, it will remind you to sign it. If you have an open case and you haven't touched that record or done a progress note or anything like that, your reminder will pop up that you need to give your record some attention. Back here, this is where you want to you can add your school logo to appear on your emails. This is where you would customize your sport level, things like that. And team members is important. If you have other athletic trainers or other healthcare providers that you want to add to be under the same account, this is where you would add them. They would not sign up for an account separately. You would create the account and you would add them from within the account. That way everyone is linked and able to view the same things. So if I click add team member, this is where we would put the athletic trainer's information here. And if you wanted to only give someone read-only access, you can check that off. I don't know if anyone serves as a preceptor, but you can add Katie athletic training students as team members. They can have their own account login. They can do SOAP notes. They can do concussion evals. They can do a lot. But instead of signing and locking, they would click a button that says send the preceptor, and then you would receive it when you log in, and then you would review it. You can make changes, and then you would sign it. So you both are signing it. We do not allow Katie students to do discharge notes because we don't want them to clear anybody. And we don't allow them to do coaches reports because we don't want them to put something wrong that goes out to a coach. Down at the way bottom, we have treatment sign in. If you click download QR code, this is what we have hanging up on our wall in 3 or 4 spots where the athlete will hold up their phone and do their treatment sign in that I mentioned earlier. Again, that was created and designed by one of our subscribers, not us. This is where you can view all of your current treatments. And if you wanted to add cupping, you would just have to make sure you type in the red category that it's under properly, add in cupping, and then the treatment value. Let's say it's $15 treatment value that you want to put in there. That's where you can edit that. And I'm going to go back to that treatment sign in. If you want to get rid of anything, let's say, I'm just going to scroll here, look for something, not that you would get rid of core stability, but under the category rehabilitation and exercise, that's the red title you can't change. Core stability, the value of $35. If I wanted to get rid of this, I could get rid of it. If I want to add it to the quick list, which I probably wouldn't because it's not like the super common thing that you do, you can add that and that will appear at the top for them. The other thing treatment sign-in does is that it gives the athlete an option to repeat same treatments as prior visits. So if they're in for the same thing every day, at the top it'll give them that option so they don't have to scroll. And that will make things quicker for them. So that is the quick version of account. Back to main menu. By the way, if you ever click ATGenius, that will always take you to the main menu. We click on Daily Journal, another idea from one of our subscribers. I just put in some injuries here, but that's not really what this is for. This is a notebook just to write anything else down that you think you need to document. I have on here, spoke with wrestling team about skincare. Let's say you notice a hole on the soccer field and you've told maintenance about it 3 times and you want to cover yourself that you've done your due diligence, you can document that here. We had the unfortunate event of having a C-spine fracture with a football player at my school a number of years ago. And when the lawsuit happened, the question was what was done to prevent this injury. So if you're doing some injury prevention things, you spoke with the football team about proper tackling technique, or you showed them a video, don't hit with your head. You document that in here so that hopefully that never happens to you, but if you need to show what you've done to prevent injuries or anything else, you can put that in this area here. Support comes with the system. We are pretty good at returning support requests. very quickly. So you would put that in here. And you guys have my email too. So if you ever had something urgent, you could always email me and we get to those as quickly as possible. The last section I want to show you is the athlete portal. I'm back to Oscar Martinez. If I go to View Edit, this is the athlete portal. So if you want to have your athletes and or parents create their own account, as I mentioned earlier, this is where it would take them. And you can specify what you want them to fill out. And if you plan to use this, please don't reinvent the wheel. We have documents that we can send you that you can provide instructions to your athletes and or parents on how to create their own account. If you give access to coaches, this is what they can see, this information. They cannot, as I mentioned before, see SOAP notes or all your injury evaluation documentation. So let's say I'm an athlete, I've been told to fill out this information. We have their basic demographics in the first tab, their parent guardian information here. If you're going to be using any of our e-signature things for preseason documents, we do a two-step verification, and that is where the parent's cell phone is needed or the athlete's cell phone is needed. Some of our colleges want to collect insurance information and have the athlete upload a copy of their insurance card. So that's where this information here is, and we've had a lot of people ask for secondary insurance information for maybe two different parents with two different insurance, that's there. Their physical information where they can upload their physical is here, and or their health history form. And any you can have them go through and check off any medical conditions that they have. That will probably still be on their physical, but if you tell them that they need to download, sign, read any preseason documents, whether that's their physical, concussion information, or parent permission forms, or whatever is needed, you can upload those in account, but this is where the athlete will see that here. And they can, like I said, download it, fill it out, re-upload it. We have some colleges using fillable PDFs here for their physicals, and other athletic trainers using it to require athletes to sign certain documents before participating, or their parents. And then finally, we do offer COVID screening, and hopefully this is not going to be needed anymore, but I will tell you, this time last year, this is what everyone was asking for, and we were in high demand to produce COVID screening. And this actually, we got to the level where this sends them a phone pass that they can show that they're good or not good to their coach upon entering practice. Reports for this, I mean, this dominated us a year ago, as you can probably imagine. But we still have it up here. We'll hopefully be able to just, get rid of this sometime soon. But this was our COVID questionnaire, and some schools are still using this. All right, so we've had actually schools purchase ATGenius just for our COVID screening, not even elementary schools that would buy us, or middle schools, not even they didn't even have an athletic trainer. They were just in such a scramble to find something for COVID screening at the time that we had schools buy us just for that part only, if you can imagine, and never used the 99% of the other things I just showed you. We had a bus company want to buy us for their bus employees, just for that. Okay, I think that is just about everything I wanted to show you. I would like to just ask if you have any questions going forward, if you need me to send you any further information. I do save pricing for the end, which you probably have seen, but 1 to 5 users, we get this question all the time. A user is a healthcare team member, an athletic trainer, a sub-athletic trainer, a KD student, school nurse, physician. They count as users unless you give them read-only access. If you want to allow your athletic director to view all of your information, your SOAP notes and things, but not actually enter injury information, they do not count as a user. So I'll stop there and see if you guys have any questions or anything else you wanted me to cover.
The only thing I have is, oh, go ahead. Okay. The only thing I had is our IT department had another question of how would we get a copy of our data if we needed it, say like we were switching providers or something happened and you weren't providing the service anymore?
Right. We provide an Excel document. If you discontinue service for us, that would have all of your injury documentation. And we usually say if you need a contract, by the way, we provide contracts or user agreements all the time that spell out those types of things. And if you need us to put that in writing, we will. I will, I'm really proud of this and reassure you that we have a very high retention rate. I would say we're at a 99% retention. And people who start with us stay with us. I I can't remember many or the last time we've had that request to provide documentation or provide their data after they've discontinued. Most people stay with us. So if that reassures you,
Yeah, I wasn't really concerned, but the IT department has many of their own concerns, so just need to have it documented for them.
sure. Yeah, we've been through the ringer with security. We have actually one university in South Jersey that uses us that has put us through extensive security, which I'm glad they did. I really like that they do it because it puts our system to the test and they repeat it every year. And it takes sometimes over a month for them to agree, yes, we can continue using ATGenius after they go through the security. So we've been through extensive security tests, and we have, just to tell you, we have uh, schools all over the country using us, and I just wanted to show you an idea. It's been really fun growing, and we like doing conferences, which we haven't been able to do lately because of COVID naturally. You know, it was a big deal. We did the NATA conference in Las Vegas, and that was the first time we did a national one, and that was real exciting for us to do. Sorry, I have so many screens open, I can't grab something I want to show you. All right, maybe I can now. Okay. All right, so let me just show you this here. I may have sent this to some of you guys, but you know, we just put a handful of some of our schools that are using us. This Encore group in Alabama and Mississippi, this is misleading. That's a group of 200 high schools associated with Encore throughout the states of Alabama and Mississippi that are using us. And, you know, we have a mixture of colleges and universities, Cincinnati Children's Hospital. That was our first big group, with about 18 different schools that signed on to use us through that organization. And then recently, Encore Jordan joined us, but we have a variety of high schools and colleges and rehab facilities that are hospital-based centers that contract out athletic trainers that use us as well.
I guess
What's
my
the,
question, oh,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry, just my last question, so then you can have it. Um, what's the turnaround time if we decide to purchase before we'd be ready to be up and running?
You could be up and running today if you want. We offer a free 60-day trial. So you can sign up and create an account today if you want and start using it. It's the full system. And then we just need your payment before your 60-day free trial expires.
My main
I'm
question,
sorry, Meg. This is the last time you get
it's
interrupted.
okay, it's okay.
We have extended that too. So if you're not quite sure, you need more time, we have commonly extended that to 90 days or longer if you need more time. And we understand how schools are slow sometimes to provide payment. Go ahead, Meg. Sorry.
It's all right. So, so I guess my question is just the initial like data entry. We use like a different sports register. We use Family ID. I don't know. A lot of people in our area use it, but for like our sports sign up and stuff. So to have them try and like have kids do another thing to sign up with initially will just be too confusing. I guess I don't know how to like get all the athlete info imported. I know
Right.
you can do a CSV file. I tried to do that off Family ID and it didn't work. I mean, it worked, but it didn't match up well.
Because my high school, we use Family ID as well.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
um, yeah, that would be the best way to do it is what's not happening with the CSV file?
Honestly, I did it over a month ago and I haven't opened it since.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't remember. I was able to do it and enter the kids' info. I think I was trying to capture some of the like medical info in there too and get that to transport in. I don't know if some of that was what screwed up. I
Well,
don't.
just to let you know, let me go back to where I was here. This field list here, these are the only things we can bring in. So
Right.
if there's medical, if there's medical information in Family ID, we would not be able to pull that in. We could only pull
Okay.
demographic information. And if it's
Okay.
easier for you, if you could get that Excel CSV file that has this information and just send it to me, we will
Hmm.
import it for you. As long as you can get that file, somebody can help you at school get that file.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then, yeah, because then we always have kids that aren't signed up or join late. And like, I don't mind entering them individually. I'm just thinking to get started preseason wise.
Right. And, I don't know if your school's in love with Family ID, but our preseason docs is basically doing a lot of what Family ID does,
Hmm.
all under one system.
Yeah.
But like I said, at my high school, we add them on the fly. I find it buys time. Yeah, I have
Oh, yeah. Would you be willing to send that? You said you hand the kids some sort of directions while they're waiting to see you.
right.
Um, I didn't know if you would be willing to send
Yeah,
that
I
to
can send that
someone.
to you. It's actually just a strip of paper that's laminated that we keep in a drawer,
Yeah.
and yeah, that works pretty well. Because
Hmm.
over time, they eventually just all start to
Right.
get in there.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, when you're letting it sit idle like this, it's going to log out on its own after a minute or two. And that's for security and HIPAA. So if you're in the midst of something, just make sure you hit save. Or if you get distracted and walk away, part of our security measures, and this is required to meet a lot of these schools that require this, it logs you out. Okay. Anything else? If you want to remind me, if I forget to send that to you, please send me an email. I'll send those athlete instructions.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you for your time today.
I
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.